My name is TJ Ragnes. I'm the athletic director at Madison East High School, and I'm going to be taking you through an overview of the Madison Metropolitan School District's Student Athletic Code. If at any point you do have questions about your athletic code, your absolute best resource is certainly your athletic office. My hope tonight during this presentation is to cover many of the main parts that you can expect to run into as a student athlete and as a family of a student athlete here at MMSD. Again, if you do have questions, please feel free to contact your athletic office, and I'm certain any answers you need, you'll be able to get there. So the first thing that I'd like to cover is that there are two steps to participating in athletics. The first step is actually becoming eligible to be a student athlete. And the second step is remaining eligible to be a student athlete. We'll begin with what it takes to become eligible and then move on to what it takes to remain eligible. The first and most important part of being eligible as a student athlete in MMSD is that you be and remain an amateur. Very simply, a rule of thumb to cover is make sure that you've not accepted anything of value for participating in an athletic event if that particular item hadn't been offered to everyone participating. A second part of that, of being eligible, is that you reside with your entire household in your high school's attendance area. There are certain rules within eligibility that apply specifically to attendance. Again, I would refer you to your specific school's athletic office if you have questions. A second avenue to becoming eligible as far as attendance is applying for an internal transfer, which is within the Madison Metropolitan School District, or open and enroll from a community outside of Madison. If either of these options are something you're interested in exploring, you need to consult with the athletic office of the community where you currently reside, as well as the athletic office that you are intending to transfer or open enroll to, as the WIAA requirements are pretty strict and are also very specific as to what you would need to accomplish, as well as consulting with the MMSD enrollment office for the requirements of enrolling in an MMSD school. Once you've established that you are enrolled at an MMSD school, and once you would like to begin the process of participating in a specific event, a specific sport, there are several steps that need to be taken before you'll be allowed to practice. For those student athletes that are returning to a new season, all athletic participation fees, all uniforms, and all equipment from previous seasons must be returned or paid for. Before practicing, any participation fees that are listed on your Infinite Campus account must be taken care of. If there's any uniform or equipment left over from previous seasons, that must be returned or paid for. Once we've gotten to the point where the season has begun and final rosters have been set, athletic participation fees of $115 for each sport that you participate in, plus surcharge fees for golf, hockey, gymnastics, and wrestling will be added to your Infinite Campus account. Again, that won't happen until after final rosters have been set. However, they do need to be paid before you'll be allowed to compete. A note on this is that athletic fees are applied separately from the beginning of school fees, and that they may also be paid separately in the athletic office. If you would like to use a check to pay an athletic fee, please do make sure that the athlete's name, their student identification number, and the sport that they're playing are on the memo line so that we are able to apply it properly. Once the fees have been examined, the next step is to complete the online athletic permissions. Those online permissions are available on each school's athletic office via a link on their webpage, as well as it's indicated right here on our screen. And if this is a recording, you'll be able to just click in right through there. Something to note is that each student athlete must complete the online permissions for each sport they play. That means that if they are playing a sport in the fall and the winter and the spring, they would need to complete the online permissions once for each of those seasons. There are separate spots for the student athlete to complete, as well as the parent or guardian to complete, two separate set of questions. The student athlete must log in with their own personal Infinite Campus credentials, as well as the parent must log in with their individual Infinite Campus credentials. If there's any question about the login or password, a parent guardian is able to either contact your school's athletic office, or there is a password retrieval tool within the login page for the online permissions. Once you click that link, a new password will be emailed to you. The athletic permissions cover many of the initial eligibility, many of the initial clearances that are necessary to participate in an interscholastic sport. The final step after completing the athletic permissions is to submit proof of a recent physical via either a WIAA physical card or an alternate year physical card. These forms are found at the end of the athletic permissions questionnaire once you submit that you attest all this information is true. You will have a link available that you can print the form from. Once you print that form, complete it, and return it to your athletic office, this must be done before the first day of practice. There may be pre-printed forms available in your athletic office at your high school. That would be something that you would need to check at each individual school. Most clinics and doctor's offices also have these forms available. And if you do go in for a physical and simply ask them for the WIAA physical form, they most likely will know what you're referring to. A final step that may or may not be required of you, depending on your sport and depending on your school, is an emergency medical information sheet. This is something that your coach would carry with him or her at all practices or competitions on the off chance that the student athlete is injured and that any emergency information is necessary. Once you've completed the pre-eligibility forms, there is a question of remaining eligible to compete throughout the course of the school year. This is measured in a variety of ways. The first is that you are demonstrating adequate academic performance at all times and in the past. The grades from the most recent high school grading period control your initial academic eligibility. For those that are incoming freshmen, they begin with a clean slate. That is, their 8th grade grades do not apply for fall sports. However, grades from the first quarter of high school will be considered when they are completed. For students that are sophomores, juniors, and seniors, the grades from 4th quarter of the last year will be what are considered for fall sports. If there is a class that you did not pass, a single class that you did not pass, you would be ineligible for 22% of the scheduled contests of that fall. If you had 2 or more non-passing grades from fourth quarter of the previous school year, you would be ineligible for 33% of the scheduled contests in your sport for that fall. You also must be enrolled as a full-time student per your school's guidelines before you're able to practice and or compete in your sport. And finally, you must be attending and passing all classes during the current school session. These are measured by weekly academic status reports, which are also known as Tuesday reports, as they are commonly submitted to the coaches on Tuesdays. These reports show a snapshot of the student athlete's academic standing in each of the classes that they're currently enrolled in. If the student athlete displays a non-passing grade in any class for 2 consecutive reports, they are ineligible to compete until that grade is raised to passing, and that will be at least a single contest. Attendance is also tracked. If there are any unexcused absences that appear on 2 consecutive attendance reports, the student athlete would be ineligible for at least 1 contest. Another section of remaining eligible is adherence to the MMSD athletic code. There are questions as to why does an athletic code exist. Among those is that it is a WIAA requirement for all Wisconsin high schools to have an athletic code. It provides consistent expectations that guide, govern, and measure the conduct of our student athletes. A note on this, where MMSD has 4 high schools, the athletic code is the same for all high schools in Madison. And the athletic code is enforced the same at all high schools in Madison. We have an athletic code to emphasize the year-round responsibility that all student athletes have to conduct themselves in a way that reflects positively on themselves, their families, their schools, and their communities. And it is a demonstration of the privilege that being an MMSD student athlete is. In many ways, it should be noted that the athletic code is stricter than the rules for a quote-unquote regular student. This is further evidence that participation in sports is a privilege that has to be earned on a continuing basis throughout the school year. Now, unfortunately, with the code, there are occasions that violations occur. And when these violations occur, there are consequences that the student athlete will face. Within the Madison Metropolitan School District's athletic code, there are 3 levels of code violations. Level 1 include non-athletic tobacco or drug-related violations, and in some unique cases, self-reported athletic tobacco or drug-related violations. For a level 1 violation, the first time it happens, a student athlete will be ineligible, depending on the severity, for 1 to 4 contests within their season. Any subsequent violations after that first time violation, the student athlete will be ineligible for 25% of the season. Level 2 violations deal exclusively with alcohol, tobacco, or drug-related violations. A violation for a a penalty for a violation at level 2 is an ineligibility for 50% of the current or upcoming seasons. The final level, level 3, is for extremely serious violations. These violations will carry a suspension from competition for 50 to 150% of the season, depending on the severity. We'll talk a little bit more about each level in specific now. At level 1, as we mentioned, first-time violations cause an ineligibility for 1 to 4 contests. Anything subsequent to that initial violation is an ineligibility period of 25% of the season. Some examples of what will carry a level 1 violation of the athletic code are any out of school or full day in school suspensions for behaviors such as fighting, harassing, forgery, cheating, or violation of general school rules. Another level 1 violation may include attending a gathering where underage drinking or drug use is taking place, or transporting students to such a gathering, as well as conduct unbecoming of an athlete in the Madison Metropolitan School District, which would include some uses of social media. In unique cases, self-reported alcohol, tobacco, or drug-related violations may carry a level 1 violation penalty. If that ATOD violation is self-reported to the athletic director, a principal, the school's ATOD coordinator, or their coach prior to any staff being aware and prior to the team's next practice, game, or event, if they happen to be in season, or prior to noon of the first school day during the school year, or noon of the third day during a recess, for instance, if we were during a summer break, that will result in a suspension from competition that may be reduced by up to 50% of the initial suspension. Basically, what that means, it may go from half of your season to a quarter of your season, depending on the circumstances. Carried within this, however, is the requirement that the student athlete meet with the school's ATOD coordinator and that they follow through on any recommendations that the coordinator gives before any suspension would be reduced. At level 2, which again deal with alcohol, tobacco, or drug-related violations of the athletic code, the violation will carry a suspension of 50% of the season. Included with those violations are buying, possessing, or use of tobacco, nicotine, alcohol, drugs, or any imitations of them, any smoking of any sort, any misuse of prescription or over-the-counter medications are all examples of a level 2 violation, and all will carry a 50% suspension from competition. Level 3 are our most serious violations. They carry a suspension for 50% to up to 150% of the student athlete season. They include possession of a dangerous or concealed weapon, forging school keys or key cards, theft or vandalism causing more than $200 worth of damage, any hazing or initiation activities, battery or sexual assault, belief by staff or, belief by staff of a municipal, state, or federal ordinance violation, organizing or hosting a gathering where alcohol or drug use occurs, selling, providing, or distributing alcohol or drugs, as well as any level 4 or level 5 behavior education plan violation that occurs within the school. Your athletic code is available online at all of your school's athletic office web pages. It is available in printed form at any of your athletic offices as well. Thank you for taking the time with me this evening, to examine an overview of our athletic code. I wish you the very best of luck in your upcoming season.